Everybody, and welcome back. I'm Shylor, and I've been gone for a few days. I have to say that I did get a kitten, and so that has been a fun experience. And here's that cute little kitten. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Shy, that is an adorable little kitten. So, anyways, I have gotten this awesome little kitten, and her name is Sudo. So I've been kind of learning how to take care of Sudo, and yeah, so she's doing awesome. She's playing in the kitchen with like a bottle cap or something. So anyways, I want to get to video number 4 of HTML, and this will be the last kind of HTML4 focused video. After that, we'll start moving into CSS, and it will be pretty much learning how to merge HTML and CSS. So there will be HTML in the CSS videos, but we'll start merging into CSS. That way you can actually start making your page look awesome. So that will start... So this will be the last official HTML and HTML video, and then you're going to go start doing the CSS course after this. So, and we'll continue kind of on where we're at. We might shift some gears a little bit, but pretty much the first CSS video will be just you kind of learning how to do a few CSS things, and then we'll start actually learning how to style a page and move stuff around and stuff like that. So anyways, in this video, what I want to do is I want to create a new page, and then we already kind of have it linked, so we'll look at linking. We'll look at static and dynamic linking, which is very useful as you get into more development. So let's go ahead and get started and create a new page. So the first thing I want to do is I'm just going to right click on here. This is with Atom. I'm going to do new file, and I'm just going to call it about.html. Now, I'm not going to write out this file. I'm actually just going to copy and paste it. So it's pretty much just like the other file that we have. And so I'm going to go ahead and save this. Now, in our menu, we have our A tag in our little navigation that we built. We have our A tag, and then in this href we have a slash, which is for home, and then we have href about.html. Now, if you look inside of this folder here, we have about.html, and this slash here will be explained in a minute of why we do that or why we don't do that. So if I go ahead and save this, it's already saved, and I bring up the page, Shy Ninja, and if I go here and I click on home, you'll see that we just stay on our home page. If I click on about, you can see that we switch, and we can switch back and forth really easily. Now, if you look up in the URL, you'll notice that about.html shows up, and you'll see that slash that I was just talking about. So this is pretty much how to create a new page. And so pretty much the index.html, if the URL is just like this, index.html loads, and then if we actually go in here and we actually change this to about.html, we will load the about.html page. So that's pretty much literally how easy it is to create a page. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a few different ways of doing it. And so pretty much right here you can see that we have pretty much about.html. Now, if we wanted to get rid of this .html in working with HTML, what we can do is we can actually create a folder. So we'll do new folder, and we'll call it about. And so what I'm going to do is, instead of putting about.html inside of this folder here, I'm going to create a new file inside the about folder called index.html, and then I'm going to paste this code inside, and this is our about page. Now I'm going to go ahead and delete this about.html page, so this is no longer used. Now, if I go back to the site right now and we try refreshing it, you'll see we'll get an error that it's not found. Well, that's because we've changed it. And what I ended up doing was I created this index.html file, so when you enter the about page, it will look for the index.html. So as we talked in the first video, if you don't put anything at all in the URL, it looks for the main index.html. If you go into a folder, so how you go into a folder is we go to about. So this right here is the about folder inside our site. And if we go to this, it's going to look for that index.html file inside the about.html. So we go to this, it works. And you can notice now that we don't have index.html on the URL, so it's kind of clean. Now this isn't, in HTML this is a good way to do it, but as you progress into PHP and stuff like that, you actually don't do this. But if you're working on an HTML page and you don't want to have, you know, .html on your links, one of the ways you can do that is creating a folder and then putting index.html inside of it. Now, if we go ahead and we rename this index.html inside of the about folder, so let's go ahead and rename it. Let's say we call it about.html and we save it. Now, we renamed it. Now, if I refresh this, you'll see that we get this index of about, and this is going back to the thing that we learned, that the folder, whenever you go to a folder, it will instantly look for the index.html. So here it's showing about.html. So this is if you don't call it index.html, you'll get this fancy little page, and then you'll have to go into about.html. And for some reason I keep looking at about and it feels like it's spelled wrong. So if it is spelled wrong, I don't know. That's really weird right now. It's spelled right, I think. I don't know. So it just looks completely wrong to me right now. No, it's spelled right. Okay, so that was a weird thing. I don't know. So if you wanted to do that, you could do that, but then you have, you know, ShyU.ninja about and then about.html. So it's not as pretty. So, like I said, what you do is you rename this to index.html. So the first file that you want the website to go to in a folder, so in the ShyU folder, we want it to go to this index.html. In the about, when we're actually at the about folder, we want it to go to this index.html. Now, if you wanted to, you could also create, let's say, another file inside of this called also about.html. And, you know, if I copy this text again, and we just change this to also about, you will see that. So here we have, so here if we refresh this now, we get our about, and then if we go to also about HTML, we will get our also about HTML. So it just pretty much a folder will look for index.html as its first file. It doesn't mean you can't have other files in there. It just means that it will look for that. So the two methods of doing it are is that you can either do a file, so you can either do like index.html and then just link back and forth to it, or you can create a folder and then put an index inside of that and then link to that. Now, we haven't looked at how to link to this index.html. In order to do that, pretty much just like you saw in the URL, we'll just delete this and do slash, and we now link to it. Now that's on the about page, so let's go ahead and get rid of that file real quick. So in this one, so on the main index file, we'd want to do the slash here. Whoops. And now I'm going to show you a problem here if you don't pay attention, is that if we go back to our main file and we refresh this, and we can flip back and forth between these two pretty fine, right? Everything's working fine. But see, when you're on the about page and then you click the about page again, you get an error because, well, you forgot to update your menu on the about page. So you got to make sure that you update your menu on all your pages. Now, once you get into PHP, you can kind of have this done a little bit more automated, and so you don't have to go through every single file to edit your menu, but make sure you do that because it's real easy to edit 3 of the 5 pages and then users get confused when something doesn't go right. So pretty much what we've been looking at is dynamic linking. So if I wanted to, I could also link to, say, this about page using a static link. So a static link pretty much is the full link. So if I do ShyU dot, well, actually it would be http://ShyU.ninja/about. Now I don't have to put this slash. This is completely optional if I put the slash on the end. But this is a static link. And if I put this in here, you know, this will still work fine. You're going to see this link show up on the HTML, but don't worry about it. So if we go back, we refresh. Oops. If we go back to the home, so there's that link. Don't worry about that. You can see that this still goes to the same page. You know, everything still works fine. The issue with this really comes into the fact that, let's say that you build this website and you think it's awesome, and then all of a sudden you decide you want to change your URL, and you decide you want to change it to ShyU or ShyUniversity.com. Well, the problem is because all your links are hard-coded, they're basically hard-coded with this, you have to go through all your pages and then change it to ShyUniversity.com, and so that really sucks. So one of the best things you can do is actually just use dynamic links, which are partial links. And so this would be a dynamic link like that. So by using that, even if you change the domain, it will still work. Now there is one important thing in this, is you'll notice that here we use a slash and here we use this slash. Now this is not totally a problem that you use a slash, but you need to understand what's happening with there, because you can get some weird results with this slash versus with having it versus not having it. So this should also work for in our case. So if I go here and let's go ahead and get rid of this real quick, and we'll just get rid of that slash there, and then we'll get rid of this slash here. So this will work in some sense, but you'll see an error. So if we go here and we go to about, that's fine. We go back and we flip back and forth, it's fine. But then if we go to the about page and we click on the about page, well, it throws another about onto it. So what this slash is doing, what the slash in the front does, is it says, okay, when you have the slash, go back to this point right here and then start typing the word. As where when you don't have the slash, it will look in the current locate. It will basically link to the current location. So it will use this, and then it will say, oh, I need to add another about to the end. So having the slash is important or not important depending on what you're doing. So in the case like you saw before, in this case where we bounce back and forth, it's fine, because even with the slash, if we look at the source code on the home page, we can see that it just has about. That's fine on the home page. But the problem is when we enter that about folder, well, now when it does it, it still does the same thing. It's still using that about, but it's starting from this about right here. It's starting right here instead of right here. So that's really important on having that slash in front and not having that slash in front. I tend to like having the slash in front in certain situations. Sometimes you will run into a problem back and forth, not necessarily in HTML, but once you get into PHP, you can run into some weird issues on having it or not having it. So that is dynamic and static linking. I hope this helps. I hope this gets you started on kind of building multiple pages. In the next course, like I said, we will be working on CSS, and you will start to make your page actually look cool and getting background colors and stuff like that. Well, not necessarily in the next course, but in the next few courses, you will start making the page actually look like a website. So thanks for checking it out. If you have any questions, jump on discord.shyuniversity.com. It's a Discord server we run, and you can talk with other ShyUniversity people and fans or whatever, and ask them questions if you get stuck or whatever. You can message me also privately on there and ask me questions privately. And yeah, if you like the videos, be sure to share them with your friends and stuff like that are learning HTML or whatever, and get them started too, because once you have like an HTML buddy or a coding buddy, it's a lot easier because you'll figure something out and then they'll figure something out and then you guys can share it together. And so that's really a great way to learn.